Hey, you. Thanks for tapping into another episode of Untapped Keg podcast, where we explore different perspectives of sobriety and mental health so that you can take something and implement it into your own life. Here, we believe there's only one right way to sobriety. That's the way that works for you. I'm your host, RJ Zimmerman. And today I'm very excited to be joined by Jason LaChance, the host of Knocking Doors Down podcast, and also the media director and outreach for pain parents and addicts in need. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm good, brother. It's good to see your face again.
It's good to see you too. Depending on when this comes out, I was a guest over on your podcast, and now you're coming over to hang out with us, which is it's really exciting. We had a really wonderful conversation. Um, for those who don't know who you are, could you give us a brief introduction into yourself, Jason?
Sure. Yeah, I've been the host of Knocking Doors Down. It's in the fifth season, so almost 5 years, I think. And I come from a background, a home of addiction. It almost seemed like destined to be. I struggled with not only alcoholism, but pornography as well. Went through some sexual abuse in my early adolescence. Hardcore pornography was prevalent in my home in my early stages of life. So, yeah, all these wonderful feelings and emotions that we get hit with as children that activate our nervous system like crazy. And, by the time I hit about my mid to late 20s, early 30s, really the alcoholism kicked in. And I tried quite a few pills and powders, and thank goodness those things didn't do what I was looking for me. Didn't seem social enough, I guess. And yeah, so I've had long-term recovery, 7 years total, and I'm just over 3 years continual sobriety as of today.
That's that's awesome. I appreciate, you know, that overview because it gives a really good understanding of why, you are where you are. One question, that I'd like to go with from there is what brought you from the place of just starting your sobriety and recovery journey to get to where you are now, which is working, having the podcast, exploring that avenue of, service and things like that, and then working for the nonprofit you do.
Yeah, it's hard to put a place on exactly when and where it started. I do remember the first meeting I went to, a gentleman who's a dear friend, and he was a pastor at a church I was attending, and I would confine in him. And he, after we had a sit down, and he's actually a certified clinical psychologist as well. Two interesting things to go hand in hand.
Hmm.
And he prayed, and he just said, hey, in the midst of prayer, like, I've taken people to their first AA meeting. If I take you, will you go? Yeah. And so that was kind of that start of it just over 7 years ago. And as far as ending up in the podcast and where I'm at now, a goofy, weird story. I had kind of been talking about my sobriety on social media, and I wasn't really seeing a lot of that. This is 6.5 years ago, and just asking questions and things like that, or even putting out what I struggled with. And a good friend of mine, Carlos Vieira, who he struggled with cocaine, and I mean buying by the pound. He had that kind of cachet to do so. He's now 17 years clean off of cocaine, I think. Anyways, and just before the pandemic hit, he came to me and said, I was working in radio broadcasting. I did that career for over 20 years. And he goes, you're always asking me to sponsor these different podcasts you're doing. And I was doing different ones for fun and, some comedy based stuff, some about rock news and all this. And he goes, what if you come, I'm going to release my autobiography, and you do a podcast talking with people who've struggled with mental health, addiction, and other adversities and turned their lives around. And his book was called Knocking Doors Down, and thus there you have it. And it, gosh, I think we're near 5 million views and listens between YouTube and audio podcast. And yeah, it's just, it's been a heck of a journey. And then I ended up here at Parents and Addicts in Need because Flynn Anderson, the founder, I always joke he was the opioid king of Fresno County here in California. And we became friends, and he became a mentor. And then when some things changed, he offered me a position to come here and take over the podcast, social media, help with outreach, and a lot of different stuff. So it's been one heck of a journey. I certainly didn't see myself becoming so learned about the fentanyl and opioid crisis and doing Narcan trainings and all these different things. But it's been put in front of me, and I'm a believer in prayer and a higher power, and I haven't been told to stop or change direction yet. So that's kind of how it's gone, RJ.
And that story is such a great one of being open to opportunities that present themselves. And sometimes they may not even look like opportunities, but just, the relationships that you built and how they brought in these different things that you didn't know would take the direction that they have. Um, when you think about opening yourself to be able to see those different perspectives, what do you think would be a couple tips you could give to people that when things start to come in, that you can start to be like, well, is this something that I should do, or is this something that I shouldn't? And working through that.
Hmm. And tell me if this resonates with you. In my sobriety, I've gotten better at listening to my intuition
Hmm.
and my gut, and I gained greater discernment. I mean, you know, I was I was
Yeah.
recently thinking about that. The five closest people, you know, 6, 7 years ago, and the five closest people now, much different picture. And in addition to that, I've always been a very coachable person. And I see a lot of resistance, newcomers, younger people when they're trying to step in and maybe embracing a 12-step program or smart recovery, or they've gone through treatment, whatever the situation is. And I try to tell people to always be coachable. And it doesn't mean you're going to take everything on. I mean, Michael Jordan didn't do every single little thing Phil Jackson said. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but Phil put out the wisdom, the knowledge, and everything else. And I just try to encourage him, be coachable, but get to know that coach, build the rapport, the trust, the everything else. And once you can kind of be in situations with people, I mean, mentors are so vital. And I don't care. It doesn't even have to be a physical one. It doesn't have to be direct. It could be like your podcast, great literature, whatever it is. Be willing to absorb that and ask, can and does this apply? If so, then how? Just be coachable.
I love that one because it's one that, that involves opening your mind. And one of the questions that I started to ask myself, um, when I moved from having this void and this lack of understanding of myself internally, which was 6 years after I stopped drinking alcohol, where I finally started to have these questions and stuff. But one that came up when I realized how much I just hated myself was, well, what if I'm wrong? Like, I have all these beliefs of, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of this, I deserve bad things, I deserve really bad things that happen to me. And so the question of what if I'm wrong
Mm,
started to come up. And then it was, okay, so if I try something different and I'm wrong, like, and it's, I'm wrong that trying that something different was the right thing, what's the worst that's going to happen? I go
mhm.
back to doing things the way that I did before. That doesn't sound so bad.
No, yeah. What were some of those first steps of that exploration for you? I'm curious.
Oh, let's see here. The first one was identifying exactly how I felt that I was a bad person, and like
Mm,
looking at, what if I'm wrong about that? What if I'm wrong that I'm a bad person? And I
mm,
started to look at um, you know, the facts. Where were times where I made bad decisions and um, hurt people, like legitimately hurt people, and were they nefarious? What were the intentions behind it? And doing that was okay, maybe, and this is a max, and I know it's not this high, but maybe 5% of my life I've been a bad person.
mm,
Okay, what about the other 95%? What does that make me? And it's like, well, okay, I guess I could say that I'm okay. And then some other ones were, trying yoga. I'd been wanting to try yoga forever, but I didn't because uh, I was worried about other people judging me, worried about
Right.
some other stuff. And so it's like, okay,
Yeah,
what's the
dudes
worst?
don't do yoga.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen if I do this? Oh, I don't enjoy it, so I stop doing it. Okay. And just taking that and then opening myself to different perspectives of uh like people who are into astrology and tarot cards, looking at the meanings of them, and just these different I ideologies and other people's perspectives of life. And I'm like, okay, so if I take those and try it on and it doesn't work for me, or I just like learn a little bit about it and I'm like, I just don't get it.
Mm.
So worst is gonna happen. Okay, I just don't get it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
like those, like learning those and kind of looking at the, well, if I am so right, how am I where I am? Right. If I'm so right and I know this stuff, why do I have no fulfillment in my life?
Mhm.
And it was like, damn, okay. And so like that willingness to be wrong, that what if I'm wrong, and that curiosity that comes with it, like that's really powerful. And something that you talked about there too was the intuition and gut feeling that you've become more connected to. Like when you say the intuition and the gut feeling, how would you define that for somebody who thinks that that's a little woo woo and out there?
I, I mean, discernment's the best word I can go with it. And if it does, like, if it
Mm,
doesn't leave a good feeling in my body, like being put in certain situations or scenarios, or even the connections that I, was attempting to keep with certain individuals that were based on my people pleasing, so fallacies, and was there anything deeper? It was really taking a look at, I only get so much time. Like, as far as I know, you, me, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, we get the same 24 hours in a day, and we also don't know when our ticket gets punched. And
yeah.
it was just really looking at, like, I care about this person, but is this a reason, a season, or a lifetime individual? And I literally did that, and I made a list, and I even remember going through when I was doing some early step work and going through the amends process, and I kind of did an offshoot from there and really examined what those connections were and bonds. And the universe did me a favor because a lot of people just went away. Like, hey man, want to come out drinking? I don't drink anymore. And then the calls and texts just stopped. Or girls, no, sorry, I've committed to. Hey, I'm sober, and part of that is going to be including my sexual behavior. Okay, and some just went away. It was just a lot of favors were done for me, but there was a few that I really had to closely examine and just wish them well, be like, hey, this is out of love, but I've taken a look at my life. This is a decision for me, and I wish you the best. But this is the last time you're going to hear from me. And just because I could feel it in my body every time I was around certain individuals, the tension, the anxiety that was there. And I started to listen to that and just go, this is trying to tell me something. This really is. This has to do with how I think about, feel about, and see the connection with this individual. And it's no longer serving me, and I'm no longer going to falsely serve them either. And so it's that real striving for authenticity. I know it can be a little overused word, but yeah, I don't like being around people that I don't like being around. It's just that simple.
Mm. And I love that definition because that's how I look at it too. And that I want to, sometimes these words kind of like you were talking about with authenticity where it's used. I'm a big believer in defining words for yourself. And like that's
Mm,
how I define intuition the same way. It's really just reconnecting your mind and your body and understanding the signals your body's sending to you. Like
mhm,
that is legitimately when I think about intuition, that's what comes to mind for me. And just having that understanding of, oh, I actually don't necessarily like being here.
mhm,
Maybe I should trust that,
mhm,
and following it. And, when you're deep into, if you want to say addiction or using, whatever your comfort seeking is, or escaping from reality, you develop this disconnection with yourself, between your mind and your body. And so when you're in that, your intuition just, it's not there because you don't understand what your body is trying to tell you at all.
Mm-mm.
So what were some important steps that you took that allowed you to reconnect with or even understand what your body was trying to say?
It was a process of gaining greater consciousness. I mean, as
Mm,
humans, we react so much subconsciously. And, I mean, goodness gracious, I can't remember the multitude of books, and I've been so fortunate to meet or have conversations with quite a few of the authors that were key. And it really was. It was an examination and being conscious of those things. Like I was saying, being around someone and going, God, my fight, flight, or freeze is activated. What the heck? And then really examining that history with this individual and how that relationship connects all the way back to trauma related stuff.
yeah.
And being able to identify, oh my gosh, the connection with this person is trauma bonding. Like that's literally where this started. It started because I understand you, but then falsely after that played out characters for one another. And so it really was gaining a greater sense of consciousness. I mean, we talk all the time in recovery, people will say, well, it's a brain disease. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? We've already proven, science has proven we can change our neural pathways. So it's not just in the actions, but it's in the thoughts and consciousness themselves that we can do this, right? Like I'm right-handed. A gentleman that's a neuropsychologist, a mentor of mine, was like, "Hey, try brushing your teeth with your left hand." Well, I consciously have to think about that. When I use my right hand, it's just, here it is. It's not even. So it's those kind of situations that I started to really examine. Like, oh, I'm in a conscious state of how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking, how I'm reacting, and why. And there's, and when it's those situations that you're, I don't know if holding back is the right word, but you're not, like, your energy's low. You're protecting some energy. I
Hmm.
always liken it to, I don't know if you've ever seen What We Do in Shadows, a TV show, and there's the guy that's the energy vampire. You're talking to him for 5 seconds and you nod out. It's like those people, like I just couldn't do it anymore. And that was part of that becoming conscious of it all. The booze stopped working, the pornography stopped working, the random women, whatever it is, all of this stuff stopped working. And I listened to my body saying, stop looking for an outside solution to inside problems here. This is you. It's not
Hmm.
them. And they're in your, individuals are in your life, or you're leading the life you are because of the energy you're choosing to resonate. And it was really empowering to be like, wow, I do get to choose. I get to choose. Since I was a kid, I never felt like I had a choice in so many things. I was along for the ride. And it was like nice to get
Yeah.
off and be like, oh, okay.
And that's, oh, I just, everything you just said resonated with me, and how
Mm.
that choice, it used to, and it still does to a degree, pisses me off that when people say happiness is a choice. And like, I think that we use happiness wrong, right? Like, people use it as a feeling or an emotion, and it's not.
Mhm.
It's an experience, right?
Mhm.
So if you have that understanding that happiness isn't something that is going to ever be constant, right? It's just an experience of where you are right now. Okay, if you want to look at that as a choice, okay, I can experience where I am right now. Am I happy? It depends on what it is that you're experiencing right now.
Mm.
And that is a choice, being aware of where you are right now instead of being stuck in the past, or looking at the future that is not going to happen no matter how much you look at it. And so choosing where you want to take that attention and focus, and the awareness piece is such a superpower
Mhm.
if you understand where to point it.
Yeah. I had a lady recently say choice is the ultimate human superpower. And you know, like what you're saying there too about happiness is, I think it's kind of like gratitude. You know, we can be grateful for many things, but gratitude's like a state of being, you know. And happiness, I don't know. I mean, I'm having a delicious mocha this morning. It's like, oh, okay, I got a nice little spurt of happiness, but it doesn't bring me joy. Like I try to have joy.
Yes.
There's something different about, you know, a joyful situation. You know, like I'm
Hmm.
happy to see my partner, but the relationship we built is full of joy and love and trust and, you know, all these different beautiful things. She's a wonderful person. So it's I don't know. I think I think we get a lot of these self-help buzzwords,
Yes.
and they do work. I'm not trying to take a, you know, a number two on it, but I I I think it's a little bit above and beyond, and I think it gets too simplified in some situations, and we'll see people like, "I'm here to solve your problems." Run. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm here to solve your problems and probably financially. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and you and I both do coaching, but we're guides. We're here to help someone guide and explore themselves in their life,
Yes.
and what is this thing to them? You know, who
Hmm.
are you? Like purpose, another one that gets talked about, your purpose, and purpose isn't what you do, it's who you are, right? Like,
Absolutely.
you know, are you gratitude? Are you joy? Are you compassion? Are you kindness? Are you love? You know, I think when you get to that point, it's a little more simple than people make it out to be.
And I agree with you. And thing that you did with happiness that I think is what people need to do when they talk about it is break it down into what is happiness for you, right? So it's filled with joy. It's
Mm,
filled with maybe some gratitude. It's filled with, I would say, being present, being aware of where you are right now and not caught up in your head.
mhm,
And that takes people to a place where now, okay, if I'm thinking about it in that way, how can I move to be in that state? Like,
mm,
let's say I'm not in that state right now and I want to get to that state. Now, what action can I take right now that would move me towards that state of happiness or towards that, um, you know, being the person who can identify themselves based on what is internal instead of those external things that we do a lot of the time. Now you're able to take that awareness and point it to something that you can actually use and not something that is, a lack or the way that you might think of yourself if it's in a negative state or if there's um, something else that's you feel is keeping you stuck, and so you're allowing it to keep you stuck, and you're taking your power back. And that's
mm.
that's where I feel like having that understanding really can start to move you in a direction that you want to go. And like that's what, like you said with the coaching, like yeah, be you're really a guide and a mentor, like all in one, right? And really, what is a mentor, right? A guide. It's pointing those things out, but that is really what finding those things in life that you really want to work towards and not trying to cover them up with these external things. Like for me, it was, oh, if I get this career, I'm going to be fulfilled and I'll be able to actually feel proud of myself and I'll actually like the person that I am. Oh, if I get this promotion, I will actually blah, 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 blah. If I do this
Mhm.
vacation, I'm going to. And the truth is, none of that actually fills anything, like you were saying, if you're not aware of yourself internally and actually taking care of that piece of yourself.
Absolutely. That makes me think back when I was in radio at one time, did a morning show, and we were the number one morning show in our area. And we actually had, it was something like one in every four men, didn't matter what your first language was, listen to our morning show. It was like crazy amount of people. I was dating a beauty queen at the time, all these different things. and would get the rating, and it's like, yeah, oh man, this is so awesome. And I go home and I was incredibly empty, incredibly empty.
Mm.
And I still think back to that when I get like, destination syndrome that we talk about oftentimes. And it helps me remember back to being excited about the journey of it. Like, I'm here with you, RJ. I'm here in this conversation with you. After this, I don't know what the day could hold. I have
Yeah.
no idea. I have no idea, and there's hopefully going to be some moments of happiness here. And I'm sure there's going to be frustration because I got to edit like 3 podcasts in the next 2 days. Uh, and so it's embracing that ebb and flow of things too, and being willing, for me, stepping into certain emotions. Like, if I had had the
Yes.
emotional maturity, and I'm still working on it. I'm
Same.
I'm middle aged, but I'm still a kid. I'm like, I was gonna do this until my schedule changed from my office at home, which has Formula One Legos in the background, and you got the Ghostbuster protein or proto pack there, and it's like I'm still a big kid, but if I was able to back then go back that 20 something years and examine, my goodness, these good things happen that I worked very hard in my career for. Why is it leaving me empty? What about it? Was I expecting this? Like, that this is the gold medal. You hear it all the time. People, I won a gold medal. And the next day I was completely empty. It's like, yeah, it's the next day. You got to keep going. This thing
Yeah,
hasn't ended yet.
absolutely. There was a time last year that I was I took some time out of my day to do the laundry.
Mm,
And I felt this sense of unease, like this pressure. I'm like, a little bit of anxiety. And I'm like, where is this coming from? I'm putting clothes in the dryer. And I realized I was in a rush to get somewhere. And I was
mm,
like, okay, if I'm in a rush, where am I in a rush to get to? And I didn't have an answer. So it's like, okay, so if I'm in a rush and I don't know where I'm in a rush to get to, what's the point of rushing? Why not just be doing this laundry? It's okay to just do the laundry and not worry about where I'm headed and trying to get there as fast as possible. And like that moment, feeling it kind of dissipate and being like, oh, okay, there is a little bit to be said about enjoying that journey, especially if you don't know what the destination actually is.
mhm,
And if you
mhm.
get to that destination and you don't, let's say you fast forward and you don't take into account the journey, like you end up, like the movie Click, where, oh, I fast forwarded through all these meaningful moments and I missed them all because I was trying to get to that destination so much. And if you get to that destination, are you going to appreciate it? Are you going to understand what it is about the destination that's so special? Like learning a lesson. You can't learn the lesson unless you see what the lesson is and understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did we do I can't remember when we got on when you were on my podcast. Did we talk about the carrot and the stick?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And I think it's sad to let people, it's let people in. It's the
Yeah.
donkey with the stick and the carrots dangling at the end, and the donkey keeps walking because it wants to get to the carrot. And it's like the idea that there's no carrot, it's just a stick.
Hmm.
And to me, that was when I first heard that. I can't remember who said it right now. It was like, wow, that's wonderful. And some people might be like, well, there's no huge paycheck at the end, or there's no award or nothing. And it's like, does it matter? Like, if that's why you're in it, you might be doing the wrong things. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just me. I don't know, but I've just gotten to that place, and it's odd because the more that I've just dug into doing what I loved, and feel a drive, a calling, whatever you want to put it, to do what I do. I even looking at my bank account yesterday is like, wow, I'm in the best place I've been in 4 years. How did that happen? Now, granted, there was discipline done in a very strict budget and all these different things, but that's part of it. Stuff that I would have never have done. I
Yeah.
was a I was the awesome spender and in my using days, be like out at the bar and, oh, so and so shut up, just put it on my card, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's seeing those transformative changes that it does really happen. It can really happen. Many of people, you and I, are examples of people you've worked with, a multitude of them. I know they've come back to you and gone, wow, RJ, thank you for being that guide. My life has changed tenfold.
And that's what you just laid out too is such an important piece is understanding that it's not this one thing that when it changes, like everything changes. It's the little things that add up. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, that's what the change was. That's where the transformation was. It's doing these little things that add up and start to make more sense and open up. And that takes consciousness at first, like you were saying, with the brushing your teeth with your, non-dominant hand, like that you have to be aware of it to change and do it a little bit different. And there's nothing wrong with that. Even though sometimes in adult life, I don't know if you feel this way, it feels like we should have more knowledge than maybe we do. And so sometimes things feel like, oh, I shouldn't have to be aware of this. I should just know it and I should do it. And just understand that you're human.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that goes such a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Accept it. Like step into it's not even a flaw. And
No.
it's not ignorance either, but just that you haven't yet had any experience that's opened your mind to something else. I mean,
Mm,
we get a multitude of experiences, right? In the full spectrum. And, I'm a huge motorsports fan. I remember somebody asked me, like, why don't you just fast forward to the end? Why do you watch the whole race? I said, because it's interesting to see what all the drivers went through to finish where they do. Because the
hmm
most exciting finisher isn't always the person that took the checkered flag first. And there might be a guy that had to overcome, brake issues, tire issues, whatever it is. And somehow they got the car going and running and they finished fourth and they shouldn't have, And to me, it's just one of the things that I love about it and that I get out of it is like, yeah, not always going to take the first place trophy and stand atop the podium, and that's okay. It's like, what was all the different things, like you're saying, click. Adam Sandler's character skipped over so many beautiful moments, some of them sad and hard, but yeah, that also gives us relevance to how much we love and care.
mm.
And skip it all, then what's the point? We might as well just continue to be numb, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
Yes. That's when you start to understand the beauty in um, in the differences, right? When you can understand the beauty that comes from I am feeling my emotions and they suck right now. It's
mm,
sadness. It's even for me thinking back and the beauty of that self-hatred, even though it was so deep and it kept me stuck for so many years and had me making decisions that are like, why would I do that? Right? Self-sabotaging, all of that. But it led to the first moment that when I was actually proud of myself, like the wash that came over me and the tears and just how magic that felt. I
mm,
would not have felt that way had I not had those years of that self-hatred. And it's the same if you have the pain going through the divorce that I went through, going through that heartbreak, that moment, when you get to the other side and you can appreciate just how much of the, having that heartbreak and the pain sets you up to accept love and actually
mm,
like embrace it even more that, oh, that pain that comes with it. And if I can accept that on the other side is an equally high like moment of love, of gratitude, of just appreciating the beauty of the world. And that you can't have that appreciation without going through the shit. And that doesn't help people that are going through the shit right now. Because
yeah.
listen, there's a reason it's called the shit. right?
It's thick,
But
it could be
eventually,
deep, it stinks. It's yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Eventually, there'll be something. It might have to be something big to get through that shit for you to be able to see it and acknowledge it. Or, maybe it'll be a little thing that a bunch of the little things added up. And it was this one little thing that was the straw that got you to that mountaintop. And you look and you can appreciate how far you've come. And that's that progress. That's that progress mentality instead of the perfectionist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. I was with my oldest yesterday, and we decided to go for a drive, and I'm filling up the car, and I say to him, "Yeah, it's funny. I just found out that my car takes premium." And he got a chuckle. I live in California. It's like almost $6 a gallon. And and then we just started talking. It was like, oh my God, remember the car that I had when your mom and I got divorced? This piece of shit Chevy Impala that one of the shock mounts just couldn't be repaired properly. And and then the next car, and then that broke down recently. It was on its last leg. And it's like, wow, I'm in a, it's not the most lavish thing. It's got a couple bells and whistles, but we just had a good chuckle about that moving through time. And it was funny for him. He even remember, he goes, "Oh man, 2017 was tough." I'm like, yeah. Oh goodness. I didn't even know that he remembered these things, and it was good to have share in it was a joyous moment. It really was. We got a good laugh out of it. Looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And I think for the first time that I can recall, he acknowledged, wow, dad was in this. Like he was in it with me and my sister. Like he was there. He was struggling, but he was there, and he was pushing forward. And it was a beautiful moment to see that smile and that recognition and that motivation in him, and understanding that, like, that's a cool clarity to have, that hey, it's on me to be able to build some good stuff, and the example was there, and that was comforting, because my kids most certainly unfortunately did see me in my alcoholism.
And they get to see you now.
Mm,
That's another thing that they get to have the example of.
yeah, yeah, you too.
Yeah. It's, I'm, lucky enough they never did see me when I was
Mm,
drinking.
mm,
But that being said, like you know, the moments that I've been able to share with them emotionally, how I'm able to just be there with them and provide that space. The example that they're getting is 180 degrees from what I was given. And that's not on anybody. It's just what we know now and what I've done with that knowledge instead of just defaulting to what was previously shown, but actually doing that work to be able to, show something different because there is something
yeah.
different. And I think, that's something that people lose sight of is that difference. If you want different, it's going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of effort. There's nothing
Mhm,
wrong with that.
mhm. And I think that's another beautiful conscious thing that you said. I was shown different. Right. Yeah, me too. I think I'm a little older than you. Most of us in our age group were. And our parents,
Yeah.
boy, what they were shown, if it was like, if my grandparents were raising me, oh good Lord, what
Yeah.
a what a difference my life would have been. Because I love my maternal grandmother, but my maternal grandfather, he was an SOB. Like, we loved him, but nobody's like, gosh, today's grandpa's birthday. Boy, I really miss him. But grandma, it's a different story. And so it's kind of that evolution out of it. Is it like we're in a day and age where we can acknowledge it. And guess what? There's plenty of resources to change the way you think and see about it. Like, yeah, there was some crappy, shitty things that happened in my childhood. I'm so grateful to my parents. I love them. They're beautiful people. their wonderful flaws and everything else and their eccentricities. I wouldn't change it for anything. And I think that was doing that work to find that peace, that with the past, and just be like, all these things happen. It doesn't say anything about who I am today unless I want it to. And I don't want it to.
Oh, yes. How powerful what you just said. The past doesn't have to define you unless you let it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to define yourself moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Right?
That's something that I think a lot of people, and I know my old self was stuck on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times do people hear this is who you are? Why? Because this is what you've done before. Okay, so I guess I'll just be that person because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Or how many people now are just like, oh, this is just me. I'm an asshole. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Like,
Right.
okay, but you're making that choice to still be that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to be an asshole, and that thing that you said before that, where people say this is just who you are, except to certain people, they might always see you that way.
Yeah.
It's not your effing problem. You're under
Yeah.
no obligation to be the person you were 5 minutes ago for anybody. And that doesn't mean all of a sudden become irresponsible, like you and I have to co-parent with somebody else. Like, yeah, I'm always going to be the guy that shows up and does what he says and says what he means. But when it comes to certain things, like, I don't know, like, why won't you
Mm-hmm.
do this anymore? Like, doesn't interest me. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I've moved along. I've changed. I've evolved, whatever it is. It's like, yeah, you're in no obligation to be that person, let alone apologize for how you evolve. Especially if it's in a positive way. Like, yeah, don't be the dick, don't evolve to be more of a jerk. Please, the world's full of them. You don't have to be one.
Oh yeah. That's and there's just there's that almost that guilt that comes with growing too. Like I don't know if yeah, you're shaking your head. Yeah. Like that guilt that comes from, well, what are the people, that I've harmed in the past going to take from, and the truth is, like, if they have been able to move on from that, right? And understand and they see you doing better, like they'll probably be like, good, I'm glad. You're still an asshole, you're still a dick, you're still a douche, you're still a piece of shit. Like they can still have that, but it's at least you're not doing that anymore, right? And so
Mhm.
that's something that you don't have to let that guilt hold you back. And you can have that guilt, right? That I should have been better earlier. Like I should have gotten sober earlier. I should have, had that behavior change earlier. Yeah, you could have, right? But what were you working with at the time?
Mhm. Mhm. And I think that's a very important thing for people to take a look at. You might have had a life that was built on a foundation that was sand with some broken down tools and everything else, but you know, you have total permission. Like, don't wait for somebody to give it to you to decide you want to build a solid foundation and trade in for brand new tools. It's okay. Like, you have RJ and my permission to do so right this second.
Yeah.
And it is, and it's just a decision. And yeah, no, things aren't going to change overnight. Some things might, but be patient. It's going to take time, and it's okay. And it's a fun way to explore life. Like, life was so boring when I was using, because it's the same thing over and over, and my only connections that I had were dysfunctional. They were, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, to a certain extent, my family didn't outright say, "Hey, you have a problem. We're worried about you," except for my dad, who had gone through, rehab and got clean and everything else. But those closest people was like, "Hey, what are we going to do? Oh, let's get together this," and we would start with some false activity that never occurred. It was, insert X and have a couple drinks. No, it was always a shit ton of drinks, and the thing that we talked about never occurred.
Mm-hmm. And even if you did go do that thing, you don't even remember it. So was the point.
No. Mm-mm. Nope. I was thinking about that the other day. Good friend, we went and as a group of us and went to a MMA event, and my friend got us these awesome seats. We were actually sitting next to the family members on the other side of the barricade, and I mean, you know, the ring 6 feet away. And that's all I remember about that night. I don't remember anything else. I have pictures of meeting some of the most famous MMA fighters in the world, but I don't remember it. I must say, hey, it was a picture with me too. You know, so it's like, I don't know. I was told I had a good time, and I no longer wanted to live a life that I was told I had a good time.
Oof. Oof. That's so good.
Mm.
Ah,
I've
Jason,
never said that before.
that's a really powerful wow for anybody who's thinking about making a change in their life. Like just that one line is
Mm,
mm, sick of living a life that I was told I had a good time.
mm.
And that
Dang.
doesn't have to do with even just using drugs or, you know, alcohol. I can remember moments where, after I stopped drinking, that people were like, "Oh, on that vacation, did you have a good time?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure." And they're like, "Well, it seemed like you did. It seemed like from the pictures you did." I
Mm,
was like, "Yeah, I guess I did." And it was that same thing of being told I had a good time because I didn't know because I was so disconnected that I
right.
couldn't tell you what exactly I was feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, and I've had some interesting career moments over the last 4 or 5 years, and I didn't let some of them sink in when I was in them, and it's really unfortunate. I had spoken recently at a high school to some juniors and seniors in a class, and they go, "Well, did any of your childhood dreams come true now that you've been sober?" And I was like, "Holy shit, yeah." I remember telling my mom as a kid when I was a baseball player, someday I'm going to work with Charlie Sheen. Well, and I interviewed him in person twice, and it was like it didn't dawn on me. 4 years later, I was like, oh man, in a weird roundabout way, I am literally on camera with him. I'll be darned. Yeah. It was like I was shocked in that moment, and I didn't enjoy it until in that moment, unfortunately. Because I don't remember. Did I have fun? Was it good? How did it go? I don't, it's unfortunate. And I think that's that thing we talk about so often of be present. Be present.
Mm. And that comes with just looking at the day. Let's say you've had a bad day and you're frustrated, your mood's been low all day and you look, okay, was it really a bad day or did I let something cloud over it? And if it was mostly a frustrating day that you deserve to be frustrated, feel that, right? Okay, but were there moments that you can look at and be like, this was actually good. What's going on right now? Is there
Mm-hmm.
something right now that is going to give you this sense of peace?
Mm,
Okay, I can lean into that one.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's for me that process of reframing. Was it a bad day or was it a couple of bad moments? And do I want to let those moments bleed over? I don't know about you. I do everything I can to not take it home. It's hard,
Hmm.
but I do everything I can. And if it is, then I try to be mature and open and vulnerable about, hey, I've had some struggles here today. I just need a few minutes decompress. Whatever it is. I don't know if it's stretching, if it's yoga, if it's reading, if it's watching something stupid on TV, or I love documentaries, whatever it is. Something to just kind of click it over for a little bit. It gets better. I've gotten better at it. I still have my moments where it's pretty evident that I'm frustrated.
Oh, you're human.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder, RJ. I appreciate you.
You bet. I appreciate you too, Jason.
Yeah,
This episode has been wonderful. I love talking to you. If people
likewise.
want to keep up with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Um, hit up Instagram at knocking doors with a Z down, or you can even find my personal page as No Outside Solutions. That saying No Outside Solutions to Inside Problems is going through trademarking. So hopefully I'll have something more to share with you at some point about that. And then for the nonprofit, you can find at Pain Nonprofit on all social media. And if you search that, you'll find us on the web. And, if you or someone's in need of some help, we provide those services to help get people connected and here in our the Central Valley, and we're looking to expand into LA, providing Narcan. So we've got a lot of it. So if you're close and in the area, please don't hesitate to reach out. As I say, when you and I were younger, harm reduction was call for a sober driver and condoms. Now it's call for a sober driver, condoms, and Narcan. And so, yeah, that's about it.
Mm. And if there was something that you'd like to leave the listeners with, what would that be?
Know that everything to have a life of your dreams is already within you. We hear a lot, and I'm just not a fan of well, we're broken, you're broken. Nah, you're completely you. And there's so many beautiful things that sit inside you and inside you, your content of character, your values, and everything else that you can get in line with and have a life that will line up to that just by default. If you start to know and consciously understand that about yourself. And so, at the end of the day, most of all, just believe in you. It's hard, I know. And if you're struggling with that, find someone like an RJ that will believe in you and tell you to believe in you, because it's a beautiful life. It's meant to be enjoyed, the ups and the downs and the ebbs and the flows. So just know that it's loving yourself. Because I think you're pretty cool, and I've never even met you.
The world needs more people who think that they are actually cool and not trying to be cool. So I like that one. And
Yeah.
Jason, thank you so much for joining us. For those, you've been here for this long, Untapped Keg Podcast, leave a review, share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from it, because this is a powerful one that I think a lot of people would benefit from. And, let me know how I'm doing on those reviews. It's okay. Hit that subscribe button. Even if it's 1 star, just let me know, like, what's up. I'll try to make changes. What if I'm wrong? What if you're wrong? But also, what if I'm wrong? What if there's something I got to do?
Oh,
And let's try to be better tomorrow than we were today, because if we don't make it, we tried. Love you. Have a great week.